So hello everybody, hope the live stream is working. I check it on my tablet, which is my favorite device here at home, as you know. It's still 50 seconds here on my tablet. And on your computer is okay? I'm looking to Anja. Okay. So while I'm still waiting here for my tablet to show my own live stream on, I welcome you here at this, I've called it a masterclass because what we are doing now on Sunday evening, last Sunday evening on the other two Munich sonatas, and this one is actually more of a live, of a masterclass, more than practicing hours. And so that's the reason why I called it like that. And still waiting for my own live stream to start here, which is kind of weird. Hello Michael. Good to see you again. And there it should go. Anyway, I leave it like that. So tonight we are going to look a little bit closer to the Kachelverzeichnis 284. I've done the recording on Thursday and Friday, and I've finished the editing today, and to my surprise the complete timing of this piece in my version is 37 minutes. So that's a really huge sonata. I knew, and we have done it in 2 sessions, which is by itself meaningful. I mean, normally we end things in 1 session. I think we had 2 sessions for the 6th partita when we did the recording for YouTube, which is also, I believe, 36 minutes, but this one is really long. I didn't feel like that. So we are going to spend our hour as good as we can. Hello, Robin. We're happy to see you again also here, so nice to have you. And if you see that, I don't know if you see that next to Anja's name, there's a kind of tool, work tool. I've upgraded her to moderator. I don't know if that's useful, but that's a function in YouTube. So, yeah, okay. So while people are dropping in, we are going to go through the piece, the 3 movements, and certainly I want to spend time on the last movement and the middle section. There is a lot that we can tell about and share about this sonata, and there is a lot that I can share with you that is totally are facts that are difficult for me to place, and things about notation, also ornamentation, and seeing the fact that I've just kind of published a summary of Leopold Mozart's ornamentation system. You could expect that I'm now an expert in this, but that's far from the truth. As I said in that video, those sources, they don't give you all the answers. They just give a kind of feedback from within their context, and even very concrete practical examples that you can find in Mozart's music, which could use a little reflection from a source, so to say, because sometimes you have more than one option. You won't find it in any source, and Leopold Mozart is very nice to read, and I've taught it also in that video, but it's true. If you are looking for one source to start reading historical sources, Leopold Mozart is probably the source for you. It's very practical. It's of course about violin playing, but the way he speaks about performance, and it really takes a stand from a performer, and that's really the great thing. But in his ornamentation section, he starts very sec, very good, very dry to the facts, but then he starts giving more like you could expect in the course on composition, and it's difficult. So all to say that there are a lot of questions to me as well, but at the end we can solve them by playing them. Martin, Leonardo, welcome here. Okay. Anya's on the chat, so don't hesitate to keep her busy, so to say. And we start right away. I'll put the tablet here, so if things come up, can't promise that I see everything, but I will give it a look from time to time. And so my mother is also here. Great. She's my huge best fan, so to say, one of the best. You all. Now it gets tricky. Let's go to music. So first movement. So as I said in the video, I've made the appoggiatura long. By the way, there is a link in the description box, and Anya will share it probably in the chat. Oh, you have shared it. That leads you to the w.a.Mozart Ausgabe, which is the one I'm playing from. In case you would like to follow the score, I've quit the setup with the 3 webcams because it's so difficult to only synchronize them, and at the end, if you're just looking on a small screen, then it's difficult to read. So, but that link you can download this score, and we start. It's directly to the Cacophonzeichnis 284. So to begin with, the tempo I've chosen, the movement is not very fast. It's an allegro movement, and one of the things that are important to me is when the second theme comes, then you have a trill on the 8th note, and then you have a trill on the 16th notes, even with an appoggiatura before, which here the appoggiatura only, that's F sharp, is only indicated that the trill should be played with the upper note. Actually, that is also one of those spots, we've been talking about that a lot, like Leopold Mozart describes, that in every piece, every movement you find somewhere, one or more places where the composer, not on purpose, but where you can, as a performer, read what kind of movement he had as a maximum speed in his mind. And here I think it's very clear. So now we have a movement just of quarter notes, which is not very slow either, but it's not so fast that you would have this 4/4 bar structure, where you would have the quarter notes so fast that you would count an 8 note, jump, pum, 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 jump. It's still, the quarter notes have this own weight, so to say. So that's one of those places. Then also here, you have a Stich, what's in German. So this little, it's not a staccato note, but there's a little line that's on top of the note, which means accentuation and not played legato with the next note. And obviously also to do that you need some time. Then I'm just going through some places where I find a kind of maximum speed in the performance. So Android Universe, great to have you, and if you compose in classical music, the better. Also here. To give a little bit the answer, we have this that's a place, and then at the end you have a very specific place. I don't know if you have the score, but here you have this place, this passage, really at the end of the first movement. Those octaves in the left hand are 30-second notes. And if you would write in a much faster tempo of movement than this, you wouldn't indicate their 30-second notes because you wouldn't hear it. to me, I think the meaning of that is to give a little bit tension in the expectation you have as a listener and to postpone that moment a little bit in the left hand. Listen to this. It's a bit too much, but if you do it right. Then it works great. So, and if we go to the notation as very sec, so to say, then if you start from the common time, 4/4 bar structure, normal harmonical progression with fastest note value as a 16th, then you start from a tempo ordinario, which is about a second, about 60. I believe we are now a little bit above that, which makes sense because it's allegro. So allegro has a quite large range. You can read about that in Czerny's piano school, which is still, of course, that's 1839. You can read in other sources as well. Leopold Mozart writes about allegro as well, but in Czerny you get a very large section about what allegro can mean. It's really a lot, but technically, notation-wise, so to say, it means that it has a kind of liveliness, but it speeds up the tempo ordinario, and in Mozart's time, above even the allegretto. So if we have this tempo, let's see what it is, because I don't know it myself. It will be around 88 maybe. Okay, the 88 is perfect. That's a very normal tempo for an allegro. If you go to modulus, I have his numbers, but I have to check them because I believe that I got those numbers from Lorenz Gradient years ago, and they're not. So modulus made the edition of Beethoven, obviously, and Haydn, Mozart, but they are not to be found on the IMSLP, so the Petrucci library. And Lorenz has the original editions, but I've copied them, but I've lost the original. I have to ask them again. So, but modulus gives 160 for the quarter note. In the double beat notation it is. Which is a little bit slower than I do, but not much. So 88, 80, and I believe on the recording that I was a little bit slower as well. So, okay. The difficulty from this is a very joyful movement to play. It's rather long, yeah, with the repetition, but the difficulty is not only the left hand that goes over the right hand. I hate that. Mozart must have been very good in that, and of course in that time it was expected that you could do that as a keyboard player, and all variations have that. But for the rest, it is a very straightforward piece that doesn't require, like in the second and the third movement and in the slower pieces, slower movements, what Mozart calls the giusto, so the really detailed expression. This goes in the very basic movement or tempo and you're fine. The only thing is that you have to keep your tempo. And I was listening to the recording that I've made. I'm slowing down a little bit in the middle section, but I think that's great. I mean that's possible, because if you come back to the beginning, to the third part, the tempo is again the same, so it lifts up a little bit. So there's always a fluctuation. The beginning, don't play this chord too long. I give you that because I was struggling with that. If you play like this, then it seems as if you have to start after the chord. If you play it really as a quarter note and he's writing it like that, a little bit long. And then the appoggiatura, I play them long now, but with a lot of accentuation. And also here, accentuation. Also not the last note too long. And find the joyful movement in the 8 notes. Pianoforte, we're going to cover that in part 2 and 3 much more. That was very important in that time. Also on this last note gives a stich, so accentuation. It makes sense. And then the notes under the slurs, play them legato, but maybe not over legato like you, over legato is not the right word, not legato in the way you would play them maybe on the modern piano. So they are legato, but with a very audible attack. And of course with the accentuations of the beat. And the stronger accents come on the beginning, on the first note under the slur. That's common. I mean, we still teach that today in music school, but you should do it literally. That's really piano concerto like, yeah? Like these strings. Full orchestra. We're waiting for the solo player. And also here in the right hand. Don't play it flat, not like that. And the left hand, he writes quarter notes. I play them shorter. I need to because I need time. And if you have to play notes shorter, here I think it works fine as an accent. And I don't believe that Mozart meant these notes to play. It's our impulses. He also left hand has a melody. Pum, 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 pum. He's a solo player. So accompanied by the strings, by violins. Very cantabile. We should not forget, I think, that Mozart was influenced by a lot of styles, and in that time the Mannheim school was very important, but in general the style that with a lot of expression, with a lot of contrast between forte and piano. Again, we cover that more in a minute, and that it's not a kind of manneristic way of playing, but maybe with a little bit more of pathétique, so to say, than Mozart is played often today. It's a little bit flattened out. So, yeah. And of course, the clavichord is great in that, because this kind of style is very close. We've talked about that a lot on Mozart with the Italian cantabile style, and the clavichord is the cantabile keyboard instrument. The piano, of course, will imitate that as well, but here you can That's no problem, but without sounding too manualistic on the clavichord. Okay, and then Carol, great to have you here. I just go through the chat.
They want you to compose something.
I'm not a composer. We have Kostas. I don't know if he's in the chat. He's working hard on 6 new sonatas, 6 easy sonatas. And we're going to make a project on that. That's for another topic. Why not compose more? Yeah. We were not trained in the 90s to do that. We were trained as performers, which makes no sense historically seen, but it is like that. Okay. Also here, the orchestra tone, put it on, put it on. And a cantabile. Oh. So don't go over these. Ta-dum. That's unbelievable what a music that is for that time. And funny thing, so you all know that piece very well. There is one fragment preserved which is in the same, and I didn't know that. I just found out half an hour before the live stream. It's preserved because all these 6 Munich sonatas are written on the same manuscript, on the same folio, so to say. Only the first movement of the C major is missing. And right before that, before this 6th one, which he certainly wrote in Munich, I will show you. The manuscript is here. I've downloaded it to show you. Let's see. So here you have. Let's see if that's fine on the. Let me check myself. Okay, I do it now. So here you have the manuscript of the 6th one. It starts here, but right before that, and you can download this from the Petrucci library. It's unbelievable. We sit behind our computers, and there it is. So there you have it's crossed out here at the beginning. So there you have an alternative beginning of the 6th Munich sonata, which is great to have. So Mozart started all over again, but I will just, as a final thing here, play that for you. It's sight reading, so don't take me on that. Switch over to the chat again. Okay. If something happens, Anja will give me a... Okay, so that's really unbelievable information. If Mozart would have written on another piece of paper, or if he would be at home, probably he would start it all over with a new paper, and we would never have seen that. So it starts like this. Very different. There's the same. Same second theme. Exact the same. Yeah, there's difference. G sharp. now it's different. And then kind of silly ending, and then you have the middle section that's just a few bars. And then probably someone called that dinner was ready, and he was thinking while eating, that's not a good beginning, I have something better. So he crossed it out and he started all over again, which shows his genius, of course. But great that we have this. A lot of some places are rather boring, I think, but normally we don't play that, and we don't have that anymore. Great. Okay. We're having an eye on the chat.
And Road Universe is Dutch.
Okay. Would be so nice from time to time to speak Dutch here on the live stream, but I assume most of you won't understand that. There's actually one, speaking about Costas, there's one modulation that I was thinking on him. I don't know if he's in the chat, I don't think so. There's really a Costas modulation, so I will tell him that. Okay, then we go to the rondo here, which is, if you have heard the live stream, the recording, I don't know how this is played normally, but I can imagine a little bit faster. So rondo o polonaise. What that exactly means for music of Mozart here in this movement, honestly I don't know. I haven't looked that up, and I don't know if that's known. So the French influence. So I took a movement, a tempo here, which is basically based on 8 notes, so not on quarter notes. And that might be surprising to you, since we have a 3/4 bar structure here. Just finish my tea. A 3/4 bar structure, which at the beginning, I can show you a little bit if you don't have the score, which at the beginning gives a normal, or kind of normal notation for a 3/4 bar structure. So just play it in quarter notes. And even going further, looking from far, gives no direct information at the beginning and the middle section that it should be slower. So the tempo taking under the tempo ordinario for 3/4. So again, that's around 60. But then coming on the end, there are some things that are really pointing to a much slower notation for. If you see that here. So you have 30-second notes with that same stich, which is accentuation and not connected to the next note. So if you see something like that, you must make you think about, that's kind of my teacher Jacques van Noordmesse when I was in Amsterdam. He was great in this, and so pity that he is not longer with us here on this planet. But He could have shared a lot of things about this with us, also to me actually. But he also always said if you have this kind of more dense structure than you would normally have in common time or in 3/4 with just the normal structure of 16th notes and quarter notes and 8 notes and a normal harmonic progression, and you can read about that in sources. It's not something he came up with. Then he called that an adagio notation, which also makes sense because adagio in the sense of slowing down the tempo ordinario, which here is very much the case. And if you go that extreme, that you have this kind of fine articulation, then you can assume that the composer has not anymore a quarter note structure in mind, but an 8-note structure. And that's in fact what I've chosen. So then you come with a very long beginning note, which, if you take it seriously, and seriously in the way of, that's not the right word, if you take it metrically, so to say, and metrical in the sense of this very peaceful feeling of heavy and light beat structure. That's for me so essential in that music, in any music of the 18th century. The 19th century will go and take us in the tempo rubato feel and go take us as a listener and performers over the note structure with this tension bow that goes over more notes, over more bars, and even in music like Wagner over a whole piece. But here you have and the relief. And then, and something else, you have here a lot of indications between piano and forte. And if you read the letters of Mozart, you should, I don't know if they're not online, I believe. I don't know really for sure. Some older editions are, but they're easily accessible. Then, and you go to the Munich and certainly the Mannheim letters, which are interesting. The travel he made with his mother is interesting because he reported to his father more from a musician to a musician. So sometimes he writes about things that his students in Mannheim did or that the orchestra played, and he will read that, often will implement that. It's very important, this distinction between piano and forte, and suddenly piano and sudden forte, so this big contrast suddenly. And you find that indicated in his music a lot. For instance, if he's teaching the Cannabich daughter, I don't know, that's the next sonata in fact, and he writes, the only thing she needs to learn is to play everything as I've written with the forte and the piano, with the giusto, and certainly in the slower movements, there you need the expression. There you have the singer who demonstrates his or her capacities to sing, and on the keyboard you have to imitate that. So if you are here in this bar, so this bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you have forte, and then on the left hand also piano, piano, forte, piano, crescendo, and in this structure, here piano. And to do that, you need a tempo that allows you to do that. We come back to the beginning now, but just go through this piece with you. Also here you have a kind of limitation of what is the maximum speed. You have these trills on the 8th note. And it falls so nice back on, it's so peaceful here. For me in my head this fits. This is close, and then And it's a strange thing that happens. I don't say that this is the right tempo that Mozart had in mind, but what happens, and for me that's a kind of direction always, that if I have a certain freedom in passages that can use a little bit of that freedom, then I take that very seriously, like here. There's no need to rush. I can give that the time it needs. Ta-ram. There comes the 16 notes. And suddenly it's flowing. Remember the beginning? That's something I do regularly. If I play that music, I go from those passages and actually that counting in 16th notes, I don't do it anymore. I mean, the beginning note should have the right emphasis and the right character in my mind. I should feel the quarter structure here, because if I don't, my feel of movement is not ready, certainly not to perform, and certainly also not to make a recording. So I feel young. But in order to practice, Czerny writes, very practical in these slow movements, and then you can see how slow they actually maybe were. Count in 16th notes. And then it starts to be easy to be in tempo, you know? Okay, there we have it. Forte, piano. And also with these slurs, one slur, next slur, next slur, next slur. So you need to do something with that. Give a little bit of accentuation and have a little bit of phrasing, not phrasing, articulation. And now, piano, forte, and not only forte, sforzando, forte. So on 3/16 notes you have 3 indications of dynamics. So piano, sforzando, forte. Piano, sforzando, forte. So just like that. And on that particular moment, I start feeling as if the tempo is really on its maximum, because you can rush over that, but if you really want to hit that feeling right, you need to have time for that. So a lot happened then in two systems, in 2 lines, and it starts again very slow. I mean, that's the feeling you have. And then, just to go further, there's on articulation and phrasing, this is really wonderful. Forte, piano. Forte, bow, stich, bow. So like this. Of course you need a clavichord to do that, or a piano. Now here. The last note is piano. 30-second note piano. Forte. So 30-second note piano, next note forte. It's difficult. A beautiful passage here. reminds me to the last piano sonata. It's also middle movements section like this. Piano, and then forte, piano, and so it continues. Also here, again, 3 dynamic indications on 16 notes: piano, forzando, forte. And now I like this because I can give a little bit more emphasis on the last note, and that's important because we have a long rest and the tension goes over the rest to the next phrase. Pianissimo. That is nothing. So that's really something. That's the contrast. And then so the clavichord is perfect, and if you read his letters from Mannheim, I've talked about it in the last live stream. I will make a video of that. There were a lot of clavichords. It was very common there. And then you have this coloratura thing, so he works this theme out in way more notes. And of course there you have. And suddenly this piece that started so starts to become very lively. So there we have the 30-second notes with the I have to see, we are, that's already 15 past 10. There's a lot that we can say about this sonata, but we have to cover the third movement as well. One thing I want to say about this, and I'm very honest and open in that, you know that I try to keep both of my foot on the ground, so you will seldomly hear me say that I know things. I just reflect on them, and of course we have all our feeling, and we develop a kind of feel for things, but it's also always from the perspective, from a certain stand that you have. So it's not always clear if the feel that you develop for something is because the connection you have directly with the music, or that's mixed with the perspective of the day and the time you live in, and probably both. So, but sometimes weird things happen. And one of the things in this double beat, single beat issue of the metronome, things that I don't want to make this live stream about that, but we're just covering it now a little bit because we've touched upon that, and it's interesting to go en cours de route, like they say in French, so that we just can touch upon those things. So I had always difficulties with that double beat, single beat metronome theory, not for the fast movements, but for the slow movements. And in fact, some people have reacted also on those videos. What about the slow movements? And like for instance, like the Pathétique, I've played the middle section. That's an adagio cantabile, I believe, not metrical, so it's single beat notation, a little bit slower than what most Loraceni indicate. So I struggled always with that, and I've had discussions with Lorenz about that, Lorenz Guardian, and he said over and over again, you have to give it a try, you have to give it a try, because it's either one solution or the other. There's actually no source that indicates in a kind of variable use of the metronome, not with one composer, one, like for instance Czerny is indicating and Moshe is giving metronome numbers. You cannot say that he is partly given them single beat notation, so non-metrical, and partly metrical. And normally I do not take these metronome numbers too much in consideration, only to check from time to time. But now that we are running this again with Lawrence, preparing for his edition for next year, I, of course, focus a little bit more on that. And here it's interesting, because Moschles gives 88 for the quarter note. And I believe that's very close. So metrical. So just non-metrical, metrical would be which at the beginning would not be so weird. So just to say, that is then exactly the tempo I had, and that's strange, that's weird, that happens. And this piece, it happens for the first time spontaneously, that I played also the slower movement in a metrical way. So that's great, actually. Then the last movement will be, that's a very, very beautiful row of variations with a fantastic adagio and a very difficult minuet to close. So don't forget, Mozart was 17, 18 years. And one of the things is that you should find one movement, one tempo in which you can play the complete piece. Of course, when it goes to adagio, that's a shift in rhythm, that's a shift in meter. Maybe not here, no, but in context and notation. And then the last variation is in 3/4, whereas the others are in cut time, so not common time, cut time. But the difference between common time, so the normal C, and the cut time, it's not the difference between a normal common time and alla breve, it's the alla breve sign, but it's not the alla breve bar structure. So that's a difference. The pure 17th, 16th century alla breve notation is exactly the double in notation as the common time. Way too technical for this video, but in the 18th century you have the use of the cut time with note values that actually don't belong to the alla breve. For instance, Mozart's 40th Symphony is really alla breve, so it's not. That's not an alla breve. You will, if you see that piece, you will find only 8 notes with a very long very open harmonic progression. That's exactly the double as a 4/4 common time bar structure, tempo ordinario. And why is that the double? So why is that even necessary to have a bar structure that is exactly the double? Because you can write it everything in 16th notes. Otherwise, you have to write 8 notes. The speed is the same. 60 for the quarter note tempo ordinario common time, 60 for the half note tempo alla breve. That's because the performance is different. You have a much heavier performance. You have actually 2 slow beats per bar, and the 8th note, they have a performance that are way more legato. So also the Hammerklavier of Beethoven is a perfect example of a very old-fashioned, that's not old-fashioned Hammerklavier, but the notation system, it leans very close to the pure alla breve. That's not the case here. Here you have the alla breve more signed, more in the cut time, which is a little increase in tempo from the perspective of the common time. So they are very close and they are mixed. You will find many 19th century sources, or editions I mean, where the cut time just is left out and is replaced by common time, even by people as Moschles. So they are grown up in that tradition, and that's exchangeable. You find also in the letters of C.P.E. Bach that he writes to Breitkopf when Breitkopf has a manuscript to say, hey, that passage I've written in common time, please put cut time, because I fear a little bit that people will play it too slow otherwise. So it has to do something with tempo, but it's not a shift from tempo common time 4/4 bar structure to cut time, so alla breve. That's very important. Here you have andante indicated in the edition, in the first edition. So Mozart made an edition only 10 years after, 9 or 10 years after his manuscript, and there are some differences, some very significant differences. So andante means slower than the tempo ordinario, and my tempo is, again, the beginning. I can imagine that people are playing this normally much faster, but it's like this. But again, with the rest of the piece in mind, it can be maybe a little bit also an excellent way of finding just the right movement. You hear the beginning is a little bit more fluent now, because the 16th notes have come into the movement. It's not really faster, it's different. The same tempo. So that's if you feel the movement, it's in half notes. And then comes the adagio. So find one movement. So that's my tempo for this piece, because also, for instance, in this first variations, here you have all the articulations and things that you are supposed to do as a performer. So for instance, here the first variations you have triplets. So it gives a bow over the first triplet, then a bow over the next, then 2 triplets, again, then again, 1 triplet, and then even he starts giving the bows over 4 notes. Two notes. Of course, you shouldn't play it like that, but that's what he wants. accent works great. So it's really telling, it's really singing, it's really cantabile. So that tempo for me is kind of maximum. And also here, my tempo is jump, I don't know. Around 76. And that's, again, there is an andante where modulus and Czerny modulus is a little bit slower than Czerny. Modulus gives 132 for the quarter note and Czerny gives half note 72. So if we recalculate that, modulus would give half note 66 and Czerny half note 72. Again, that's a slow movement, and I would have said in the past, slow movements in double beat metrical, it's very difficult, but here, again, that's Czerny. Of course, the metronome holds you back. It's very well, modulus is a little bit slower. So my tempo is 76, a little bit faster than Czerny, but not in the double beat. And the single beat would be. And I would have very crazy things. Would kill the movement and kill the spirit of the piece, I think. And you would face also places that are really difficult to play, if not impossible. But anyway, so variations always. I'm always playing them, not always, I'm practicing them with the beginning theme in my mind, and I go back to that, like I did now. Then you have the adagio, and again, that's a piece where you have a metronome number from Czerny, 100, for the 8 notes. And yeah, I can tell you that, I cannot prove that, of course, but here, this piece is very symbolic for me, because all these slower movements, I was playing them in the metrical tempi that I got from Lawrence, because the adagio I didn't have a metronome number. And I started, of course, faster. I think also this piece is played faster than I did. I start like this. You have the... We today are used to give those 8 notes a little bit more speed. But then you come here in problems. This is really a microscopic way of pointing out articulation. Like for instance here you have piano forte. If you want to have that emphasis on 16th notes, you have to make the 16th note really meaningful. For instance, also here in 32nd. So bow, stich. Oh, that's possible. Yeah, you find a lot of places. I'll go just quickly through them. Here, trills on 16. And the strange thing is, and I share that with you because it's really something new for me, that you get a kind of feeling in these slow movements that I've never had. It is so peaceful. And moments like this, it is very natural 16th note ornamentation accompaniment feels so modern at the time. 1775 here. It's like it's a special feeling. And so the beginning is then slow, but imagine a singer, which makes a crescendo here. It's indicated the tension, and that's the giusto I think that Mozart means. What you're writing about. Often, people are playing great, but they lack a little bit of giusto. That's the because if you play this just flat, it's really hard then. But just add a little bit of accentuation, a little bit of rubato, holding back, giving a little bit. Tension, holding back. And now the left hand is in function of the right hand. Forte. Piano. Piano. The same line that showed in the beginning so slow is now very natural. Octave. This is a really beautiful place for a singer to show its ability. So, 16th note. 30 second rest. Calando. Which you can do then. It's so beautiful here how the left hand stops, makes room for the soloist, for the singer. Okay, I play that and listen to this, to the tension. Pianissimo, no, piano, forte, piano, forte, That's so nice. And then just listen what he, of course, what he does with the high notes. And now. Piano. I believe that's really makes sense, and I'm playing now metrical in the sense of the Czerny metronome number. I think they are really important. And not saying that I'm now going through all Beethoven sonatas with that in mind, to play every movement just according to the Czerny notation, metrical, and see what happens. But it's it's really slow, and it's difficult because you need this little extra. When you add that, there is a world that goes open. They will never have if you take this music and go over the, like we talked in the beginning, over the bar, over the notes, so you have the tension over a longer period, and then you miss a lot. It's this complete feel of freedom, it's that feeling of going down, going up, and in the meantime there is a soloist who's just playing with that time that's possible, that's really wonderful. And again, there are passages then, the 30-second note, but of course the A sharp, you have to give them the tension to go to the B. If you don't do that, it's really flat. And then of course with the high point is here. Forte, then the piano. And what you will see if you do that, take those, I think, really old movement and tempi relationships seriously, that in music you start seeing things that you didn't see before. I'm talking for myself. I saw new things in this music that I've never seen in my whole life, and things that become very natural to play. And the sentence I would use is as if the composer has this movement in mind. And that sounds very stupid to say, to have me say this, because I can, who can prove that? Who can? Mozart is not here to say yes, you're right, but it feels so obvious then. Like, I normally 5 years ago I would start practicing on those trills to play them faster, but now I think let them go. Okay, that's maybe something to close this session with. And then you have, of course, the last minuet, which is a tricky piece to play. Don't play it too fast. And you start seeing also the relationship with the adagio, because if you play this completely, the whole adagio in one piece, you are so full of that really peaceful movement that once the minuet starts, this feels awfully fast. And then like he is wiping out that feeling, and you see that parallel also with other players, like for instance Chopin. Just to close this, when he had played an emotional piece, he would just go over his piano and just finish to have this very deep emotional feeling that the music was evoking just away. And that's why this variations is ending with this minuet. Okay, well, it's just a little bit longer than 1 hour. And again, this is a piece where you can learn so much from. And one thing I should not forget to mention is the notation in the adagio. That's something you have to give an eye on. Take the link in the description box or in the chat. If you don't have the Neue Mozart-Ausgabe, or the red books, it gives both the autograph and the first edition. And that's very interesting to study, because in the autograph, which is written in Munich 1775, you see the appoggiaturas as Mozart, was talking about this summary. So you should expect me to be an expert, as I said, but that's not the case, because there is a lot of things that are going on. You see in the autograph that system of Leopold Mozart is, you can point to certain places, like for instance, if you see the first note is a D, I go a little bit closer if you don't have the score. It's a D with an appoggiatura, so that's the manuscript. And you see in the first edition a written out long appoggiatura, and even in bar 9 that same appoggiatura written out as a dotted 8th note, so it makes it longer. So here you'll find also the proof, if you want to have proof of at least some of those appoggiaturas that are long. A lot of them were. So it's interesting to compare, but the thing that surprised me when I saw this is that in 1784, when this edition was made, I believe it's 1784, that Mozart is writing out the appoggiaturas, whereas Leopold Mozart describes in his book the appoggiaturas, short and long, should be written as ornaments and the grace notes as full notation, which doesn't make sense really, and Mozart is changing that here. So I'm just touching upon this because I have to research this more myself, but have a look at this. It's really, really, really nice. It's Mozart who is translating his own ornaments in full notation, so that's the best way to learn about this ornamentation system, I believe. Anyway, my tablet has died a long time ago.
It has?
Yeah, the screen switches itself off. So, and it's difficult to follow the chat and my own way of thinking on that music. So, and now I feel a little bit tired in my head.
Yes.
I just looked to Anya if there is something that I've missed, or I was again so crystal clear. That's,
I think so.
yeah,
I think we
or
have
very boring. That can be the same.
people from Brazil, from Mexico, from the United States, from Finland, from Germany, from the Netherlands, from Poland, from Belgium.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, so it's wonderful. Elena, it's fascinating. Thank you for watching. It's being here. Martin, we know each other for a long time. Joe, Vitor from Brazil. Wow. Yeah, that's mind-blowing what's possible today with just a webcam and a computer. Joseph, great to have you back. My Aunt Rita is here. And Philip, Daniel, Andy is in the chat, working on the website very hard. If Anya's not destroying the
no, I
website.
didn't say this one. Not in the chat.
Okay. I hope you find it interesting. Next month will be Munich Sonatas 1, 2 and 3. As I've maybe said before, I will record them again. They are on the YouTube channel, but they are one of the first recordings, and I want to have them all now in a set of the same equipment and feel as we're working now. So I have to think about the schedule. So the 1st of April, and that's not a joke, you will have a video as we had at the beginning of March with the schedule of April. But I have to be honest that there is a lot of going on now, that it was great to have this schedule for this month, because I could work upfront for certain teams, and I could videos also, I could research much better than I did in the past, when I had every 10 days another piece, and then I had to shift from Bach to Mozart to another composer. And so that's great. That's the reason why I extend this month to have the full Munich sonatas. We will make a professional recording, professional for disc and for CD later this year. But how many videos I can make next month, I don't know. I really want to start with the CPE Bach in pieces, you know, reading piece by piece, CPE Bach's Versuch. That will lead to the recordings of the Probestücke, both on YouTube and on vinyl, similar to the Partita recordings that I have to find time to edit. Also there I need to find time. So again, I've said it a lot of times, it's not the production side that's the difficult thing. I could make videos 5 a day probably, but it's just what comes next. It's the kind of bottleneck situation that we have now. So maybe in April we will focus on the recordings, make some live streams, maybe some videos, maybe a little bit less as this month, to start in May with CPE Bach in pieces on a regular base. It will be a pure project for maybe more than a year. and I need to do that. I need to free time for that, and also projects that are going on now in my regular life here as an organ expert are taking off and taking more time, so we have to figure things out. So don't be surprised if you have a little bit less videos in April. Okay, I'm feeling a little bit tired now from speaking more than an hour. Again, thank you for being here. If you are new to this channel and came here from notification by YouTube or on Facebook, love to have you subscribed here. The live streams will be at the same level and maybe upgrading them in the future. Would love to have some live Google Hangouts with you, but I don't know how to do that in a practical way. If you subscribe, there's a bell icon next to the subscription button. You can set your notification system, which might be handy for the live streams because the notifications come mostly on the moment itself or an hour before. I don't know how it precisely works, but then you get a notification for the live streams, which might be interesting to you. Thank you for watching, and we see each other for the next live session. That's to be planned, so but it will be after the first week of April, because the first week of April we will be in Northern Holland. You know, our little spot there where we go on holiday, and it is we can need some time off now. So after that we'll be back. Thanks for watching again, and see you next time. Bye.